So this is meeting of the Ed Subcommittee on the 10th of March, and we are going to take up 4 bills today. We will put off House Bill 147 because the sponsor of that bill is on our subcommittee, and I'm sure he'd be happy to be here. We will, since she's present and really here, and thank you, Delegate Patterson, take up House Bill 600. House Bill 600 is one of several bills that are in the legislature which seek to expand the eligibility of service members to various programs. And this one's focused on education members. And what it does is, in a word, and I know this is oversimplifying it a bit, but it adds in all uniformed services people to the benefits that they receive on the educational level. Alistair, I don't believe there are any amendments to this bill, are there?
There are, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I thought there weren't.
No problem. The amendments make changes to make sure they're technical amendments. They make sure that we refer to licensure rather than certification for teachers, and include the definition of veteran that's in the general provision article, which is a thing that all these bills need in order to make sure that the whole thing works together. So they're identical to the amendments that were adopted on the Senate version of the bill, and that is before you as the third reader version in the House.
So the amendments are largely technical.
That's right.
Delegate Fair, you have a hand up.
Yes, I read through all the amendments. It is all just technical. I would move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have a motion on the amendments. Is there a
Second.
second on the amendments? Okay,
Second.
all in favor of the amendments, signal, if there's no further discussion, all in favor of the amendments, raise your hands, please.
Aye.
I see 4. I'm going to assume, Delegate Wilkins, since you're off screen, unless you speak up, we're going to assume that you're a positive at this time. So that carries unanimously on the bill as amended.
Move favorable.
Yeah, 2
Second.
favorables includes a second right there.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the bill, of the favorable motion on the bill as amended?
Aye.
Raise your hands or say aye. Okay, thank you all very much. And Delegate Wu, welcome. Thank you. Sorry we were conflicting with your with the hearing on your bill.
Sorry to delay.
Great to see you here. We'll go back then. That dispenses with House Bill 600. We'll go back to House Bill 147, which is Delegate Wu's bill on elementary and middle schools. I want to thank, although Delegate Vogel's not here, but Delegate Hornberger, we formed a sort of smaller group and discussed how to sort of put together all the bills that we have 4. We had 4 of them out there. We sort of combined them together. We are going to include some of the sponsors of the other versions as co-sponsors, but we're going to run 147 as the bill. Alistair, would you give a quick summary? It's a much less specific bill than some of the ones that came through.
Yes, happily. So the amendments to this bill, instead of specifying that it is for elementary and middle school, say that each school system has to adopt a use of personal electronic device policy, and that part of that use of electronic personal device policy has to be the limitation of smartphones and associated devices associated with smartphones like smartwatches be limited during instructional time. The policies also have to provide for an exception if a student has an IEP or a 504 plan that requires the use of a smartphone, if an administrator or teacher requires the student to use a smartphone, or if they're otherwise are needed for a health event that the student is going through.
These are the big 3: health needs, IEP 504, or instructed to use them by someone for a variety of reasons.
And then I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And if your county already has such a policy, the bill does not apply to you.
All right. Anybody have questions on the amendments? I thank Delegate Hornberger, and I thank Delegate Vogel for helping us out with that. And Delegate Wilkins, I see your hand up.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am pulled over outside the State House as I'm trying to get into my office. I did want to ask about the fact that it says limit. I know a number of the bills came in prohibit, and I wanted to understand better the thoughts around limit versus prohibit.
I think in the simplest sense, it would be local control, what they want to do. I think many of them are ready to prohibit them during instructional time. But we we just took a softer approach, I think, on that one.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just so in terms of this would not, thank you. This would not prevent them from going further if schools or jurisdictions wanted to prohibit us having the word limit. I just want to make sure that if a jurisdiction wanted to go further and fully prohibit, that the language wouldn't prevent them from
Alistair, does the language allow, I'm pretty sure that was our intent, does the language allow for, this is like at a minimum? Is
Yes, I think it should allow the prohibition as well.
Okay, we'll be extra sure it does that because that was our intent, and it sounds like Delegate Wilkins, that would be yours as well in this case. We'll double check the language on that and make sure that's that's how the amendment reads. Delegate Wu.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much to put everything together. I really appreciate that. I think I really like the amendment, and thank you.
Okay, I love that comment. I really do. You want to just repeat it once? No, never mind. Delegate Hornberger.
Yes, just real quick. We also put that as memorialized in the student handbook.
Right. Do we have that in there, Alistair? I know that was something we wanted to...
That's not in the amendment as written, but I would be happy to include it if you guys want to adopt it in concept, and then I will.
So let's first adopt the amendment, and then we'll quickly, I think we can probably say that amendment, if Delegate Hornberger, if you'd like to offer that, you would like to add to that amendment. And
Yeah, I'd like to amend the amendment to add that whatever the jurisdiction comes up with, that is disclosed in the employee. So not the employee, but the student handbook.
Student handbook, and we also said in if they on their website as well, what that is. So
Second.
the amendment is sent to you with that additional thing. I would take that as one amendment if someone would like to move or ask questions about it.
I move.
Thank you.
Get my own amendment.
I got to move in a second. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, raise your hands, please.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. On the bill as amended.
I move with amendment.
I have a favorable, and I heard another motion, so I'm going to count the second motion as a second. Any further discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hands, please.
Aye.
Congratulations, Delegate Wu. It's a great idea, and
Great job, Will.
You are a boy in Ways and Means, so we're passing it for you. Okay, we want you to be the lead.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're moving to House Bill 935. This is a bill by Delegate Smith, which creates a task force to take a look at absenteeism and improve attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism.
Sorry, sir. That's House Bill 879.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong number. I'm on the wrong tab. 879, House Bill 879. Thank you. Which I don't have to repeat what it does, but just fix the number. The task force contains a whole handful of people, and there's several charges. It's uncodified language, obviously. And I think there's an amendment, if I'm not incorrect. Is that right, Alistair?
That is right, sir. The amendment would add 2 members to the task force, a public school student and a school-based health professional, both of whom are members selected by the state superintendent of schools.
Okay, so it expands it. The size of it now looks like it's about 11 people, so that would take it up to about 13. It might be that somebody got more than one, but I see 13. I see 11 provisions in the bill for it, so I'm assuming that's about the number we have.
Okay.
So this is just an addition if anybody objects to those additions, but I would be willing to take a motion on this bill with this amendment
Favorable.
at one time. So I have a favorable motion on the
Second.
bill with the amendment. I have a second. Is there any further discussion on the bill or the amendment? We can separate them if somebody wants to. Seeing none, all in favor of the bill with the added members as the amendment, raise your hands, please. All right, and we're done with that one. Thank you.
Aye.
All right, last one is now House Bill 395. This is a bill by Delegate Roberts, which would seek to have certain people and things at high school football games in a mandatory sense. Initially, it came in just saying that there had to be an athletic trainer licensed or an ambulance staffed at the game. We all talked about this a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago or so and expressed some concerns about the rigidity of that and that it might cause some problems with actually getting games off the ground and formal conversations with people. I've heard that said. We are going to go forward with the bill, but we're going to put significant, we're going to broaden significantly what or who has to be at the game. And Alistair, I'm not going to try to go through it. I'm going to leave it to you to tell what, let's go with with the amendment, the list of people who would need to be at the game and the list of list of ways that emergency vehicle be present.
Sure, absolutely. So the venue-specific emergency action plan, which through legislation that the committee's passed in previous years is required at each sporting event, is expanded in the amended bill for high school football games only to require a policy in which either one of the following health professionals who is either a volunteer or an employee of the public school system is present: a athletic trainer, a nurse licensed under the health occupations article, an individual certified or licensed to provide emergency medical services authorized under the education article, or a physician licensed under the health occupations article. In addition to that requirement, schools. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Or they could have.
Or they could have, I apologize, I mischaracterized
Yeah,
it.
let's be
Or they
clear.
could have a ambulance with the appropriate emergency medical services personnel stationed at the game. The requirements of having it stationed at the game are considered met if there's an ambulance within 3 driving miles with the appropriate emergency medical services at a fire rescue or ambulance facility. Additionally, there's a provision that says that nothing in the section may be construed to prohibit an ambulance who is called to respond to an emergency event from leaving the football game during an emergency event.
Would still be met if they had to go, right?
And then the final thing is following the same process adopted by this committee last session. This is also included in the venue-specific emergency action plan for non-public school high school football games.
Any discussion on the amendments or clarity needed? Delegate Vogel, I see your hand up. Either you're voting for it because you love it or you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And sorry if there's some background noise here. I'm driving. I guess a couple questions. One, the 3 miles, what is that based on? Is that based on the amount of the time that it takes to get to the school? And to me, I guess my concern here is that it feels like the initial list of medical professionals or medically licensed or professionals that could provide emergency care seems like a pretty extensive list. I'm just wondering why we need that additional caveat being the ambulance within 3 miles. It's just that piece is concerning to me because I recognize the need to have medical professionals nearby, and I feel like 3 miles is, depending on where we are in the state, could be a far drive.
Right. It's not a requirement. It just loosens a requirement. Okay. It says that you can have an ambulance on site, but you don't have to have one on site if there's one within that many with that many driving miles of, if there's one that is stationed that many driving miles away. So that would.
And I guess, sorry, Mr. Chair, I guess my concern is the loosening of the requirement, because it feels like we loosened it quite a bit by building out that list of professionals. I don't know if we're loosening it too far with the ambulance, but
Okay.
I'll leave that up for discussion.
Sure, let's do that. Thank you for your comment. Delegate Fair. You're muted, I'm pretty sure.
Sorry, I am. I lowered my hand and not unmuted myself. So I was going to say, I think I recall there was significant conversation with our EMS about the requirements set forth in the bill and the challenges that some local jurisdictions and some local school systems have with supplying some of these employees, which is really, I think, the impetus behind the amendment. Was there, I guess my only question is the 3 miles, is there a time response logic behind that? Or is it just simply we look at that geographically and we say that's a pretty reasonable amount of space between?
Yeah, there were no studies to tell us exactly, because 3 miles could mean with traffic lights or without. We did do 3 driving miles because, if you lived on the other side of a state park and you could draw a radius around the school, it might be very long until the ambulance could actually find its way around there. So we did driving miles, but the 3 was a selection based on what we thought might be reasonable. not without a great deal of data to back it up.
Very good. Well, understanding that we all did receive a lot of feedback on this, on the challenges that this bill presented in its original form, I would move the amendments, Mr. Chair, please.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Anyone at all?
Second.
Thank you, Delegate Hornberger. Is there any further discussion on the amendment, or is there any, Delegate Vogel expressed an interest in maybe examining it, but I've got a motion in for it. So unless there's any further discussion, I'm going to take a vote. Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Delegate Vogel, are you voting for the amendment or are you not?
Aye.
Okay, he does vote for the amendment. Okay, on the bill with the amendment.
I move as amended.
Thank you, Delegate Wu. Do I have a
Second.
second? And I have a second. Is there any further discussion on the bill as amended? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the bill with the amendments that increase the number of people that could be the representative person there, or if they're not there, that there's an ambulance there, or vice versa, with the ambulance being reasonably close. I have to watch my pronunciation of ambulance. I slip into Baltimoreese there a little bit. Ambulance, as they would say. If all in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. And
Aye.
Delegate Vogel and Delegate Wilkins, are you good? Okay, thanks. Okay, that carries. Delegate, well, I see your hand up. I'm assuming that's a positive vote, or did you have a commentary? Okay, that was a hand raised for the vote. All right, those are the 4 bills we had on the agenda. Thank you all very much. We will be meeting again in a couple of days. I have a feeling there's a bunch of bills pouring down across.